Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to the penalty. My name is Trevor Cherney. Thank you so much for joining the show today. So obviously today we're going to discuss the Lions' loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then we're going to get into um, some coaching concerns for the Michigan Wolverines. So yes, we will be talking about the Michigan Wolverines on this show. We'll be talking about their football season so far, and yes, obviously they're winning games, but I've also watched all their games, and they have so far. They certainly have a coaching problem, but we'll get to them more in a bit. But first, we of course have to start off our Mondays as we always do, talking about the Detroit Lions. Um, this loss hurts a lot. This loss is going to hurt for a while because this loss. I mean, this affects what the NFC playoff picture could look like. Um, and the Eagles. It's them and the Rams probably between the one seed. Um, I just with the Lions losing this game and now losing the tiebreaker over the Eagles. Um, it's a loss that's gonna hurt certainly. You know, and um, no, obviously, look, I'm not saying their season's over, this or that. I could say that, but that wouldn't be entirely true or entirely fair on the team. There is still a season left, but there's not a lot of time left though. Like there just isn't, and you know the most frustrating part about this season thus far is the inconsistency on the offensive line play, the inconsistency of the offense just in general. Like when you see this team face bad, especially bad defensive lines, bad pass rushes, they um, they play well against. Obviously, like the Commanders, like the Bears, um, like what you call? I mean, I don't want to say the Bengals have a bad pass rush, but I mean, but but what I'm trying to say is that whenever the Lions face a good pass rush this season, or just a good defensive line in general, right? Like Philly, like the Packers, like the Vikings, they struggle. That offensive line is not as good as it once was just a year ago. You know, now we're feeling the effects of losing Ragnow, of losing Zeiler. You know, those guys who were so critical to this offensive line. Now we're starting to see the results without having those guys there. Having a rookie guard, Tay Rydlich, he got destroyed out there multiple plays yesterday. Um, Graham got destroyed too. I mean, that interior in general just hasn't played well really all season long, and it's been a struggle. And this is my biggest concern going forward is the offensive line, right? Because as we saw yesterday in their loss, when you don't play really good offense, when you don't have a really good offensive line, to play behind, Jared Goff he can't do much. Look, Jared Goff, like it or not, is a pure pocket passer. He's not going to improvise. He's not Josh Allen. He's not going to improvise and make plays with his legs. He's not Patrick Mahomes, right? He's never been that type of player to improvise and run on, and run and pass and this and that. That's just not his MO. His thing is being a pocket passer, reading defenses, and having enough time to get the pass off and making accurate throws. And when he has time to, he's really, really good. But as we saw yesterday, when he doesn't have time, he looks really bad. And I'm not going to lie, Jared Goff had a really bad game. But I'm not going to put that all on him because there were a lot of drops in the game too. And again, they those were great passes, but still they were still drops nonetheless. And again, that offensive line just had one of the worst games of the year. I mean, just really, I mean, the offense couldn't move the ball whatsoever. Um, you know, and I thought there was some poor decision making by Campbell in the game. Like, I can't remember if this was like going almost into halftime or whatnot, or after halftime. I think this is going into halftime. You know, um, or that's somewhere around the second quarter. But the Lions did like a fake punt. It was 4th and 2, and the Lions decided to do a fake punt instead of going forward. And I gave that Dan Campbell probably wanted to spark there, right? But that was dumb. I'm not gonna lie. That fake punt that he did, to give the Eagles even better playing position field, was just stupid. And it's something that I can't defend Dan Campbell on. And there are several calls he made, several 4th down calls that he probably shouldn't have never made, because clearly the offense just was not clicking. The offense couldn't get a good rhythm. They couldn't do much of anything. You know, that offensive line was under distress. Penei Sewell had a really bad game against Jalen Phillips. Taylor Decker, you know, he played okay, I guess. But again, both those guys are just banged up, you know. And look, here's the thing. The offensive line, it's banged up. The interior just isn't as good as wasn't as good as last year. I mean, these are all just bad signs for the Lions. And it makes me very concerned about going forward, you know, this team winning Super Bowl. Because right now, this is not a Super Bowl winning offensive line. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's not the standards that the Lions have for this team and for themselves. And anybody in that locker room will tell you the same. It's not the standard that we hold ourselves to. So, and it sucks because I thought the defense played really, really well. I mean, again, the defense, they're missing a ton of players. They're missing Terran Arnold. He was out with a concussion. They were missing Kirby Joseph still. He hasn't been in game forever now. You know, still missing DJ Reed. Still missing several players on the defensive line. Missing Malcolm Rodriguez. I mean, they're missing a ton of players in defense. And they did a really nice job holding that Eagles offense to only 16 points. Now, it's only a shame that the Lions could only score measly 9 points. In the entire game, they scored 9 points. You're not going to win games by only scoring 9 points, ever. So, I mean, unless the Lions plan on playing superb and perfect defense through the rest of the season, they may want to try and I don't know, actually get going on offense maybe a little bit, you know. And look, I could just sit here and just say, oh, it's Jared Goff, it's the offensive line, it's Amon-Ra, it's Jameson Williams, it's Gibbs, it's everybody involved, you know. And it is, you know. I can't look. You can't when the offense plays this poorly, okay. And even if you had Tom Brady back there, okay, he would even struggle himself with that offensive line. So, I can't put any blame on one particular player or group of players, but obviously a lot of the blame should probably go toward the offensive line. I mean, that's pretty clear and evident that the offensive line just was terrible. But ultimately, here's the story of the game too, okay? And this is one of the reasons why the Lions lost this game. And if this trend continues, they're not going to win a lot of games down the stretch. And they need to if they want to stay afloat in the NFC North. Because now Bears have the sole possession of the NFC North. So, yeah, you at this point for the Lions, it's best that they tread lightly at this point because things are not shaping out. Um, you know, things are not shaking out anything great here. So, but look at this though. So on third downs, they were 3 for 13. On fourth downs yesterday, they were 0 for 5. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the game right there. When you can't convert your third downs, and especially when you can't convert your fourth downs, which is Lions bread and butter, because they go for fourth down more than any other team in the league, which is fine. But if you're gonna do that, convert. And if you can, this is the result you're gonna get. This is the type of game you're gonna get. Now look, moving forward, you're still missing several players. You're still not fully healthy. Sam Laporta, right before the game on Sunday, he actually went on IR. And so he might be out for the year. He might be out for the rest of the season. Now Campbell hasn't said that he's out for the year, but he also said that he's hoping he'll come back. So yeah, not a great sign, to say, oh, well, we hope to get him back by the end of the year. So hopefully he's back. Obviously, Sam Laporta is a huge part of that offense when he's on the field. So hopefully he does come back, but obviously he may not. But that's a huge part you might lose. It's just incredibly disappointing. So, now their chances of the 1 seed are slim. Like I said earlier, the 1 seed is probably going to go to the Rams or to the Eagles. I don't see the Lions winning the 1 seed at any point. It might go to the Eagles, just because the Eagles already have 2 wins off of the Rams and the Lions. So ultimately, if they tie with the Rams, then the Eagles get the 1 seed. So, let's say the Rams and Eagles both have the same record in the NFC. When all said and done, it will be the Eagles who will get the 1 seed, and not the Rams. So, look, I would feel much better if the team wins. Now, look, here's the thing. Going forward, Green Bay and the Rams, if you want to stay afloat, especially in the NFC North, those are 2 games you absolutely have to win. And obviously you have to win against the Vikings and the Bears. So, yeah. Now this is when things get real. So, just at this point for the Lions, you just got to, keep your head up, keep going forward. It's not over yet. And, at this point, if you at least try and still win the NFC North, okay, fine. At least get a home, at least still have a chance to have home field advantage through the playoffs. At least still try and get that advantage. At least still maybe attempt to get the 2 seed, at least. Well, then, okay, maybe then things won't be so bad. So, but I think the 1 seed is probably out of the question at this point, which is unfortunate. But it just is what it is. When you have losses like this happen, you sort of have to eat your losses and be like, hey, it is what it is. And now for Michigan. So, look, obviously, I'm a State fan. My team's in no great shape. I hate my team right now. I hate my coaching staff. I hate the players. I hate everything about the program. So we're not going to even mention my team. But we are going to mention Michigan because, you know, they're still worth talking about, unlike my team, because they actually have a chance to get in the playoffs and they're staying afloat. But just here's the thing, though: if you actually watch their games, okay, from start to finish, and you realize that coaching is starting to become an issue for the team. It's starting to actually become a problem for the team. And here are my reasonings behind that. So, in their win over Northwestern, mind you, which is a game they probably should have lost, and they probably would have if again Northwestern had any kind of pulse. But Michigan in that game had 5 turnovers, including 2 picks by Bryce Underwood. And and look, obviously those 5 turnovers, it's just inexcusable. And it's absolutely a coaching problem. It's just, I mean, having 5 turnovers, you have 5 turnovers against any actual team, against any actual ranked opponent that you faced, and you're losing that game. Guess what? You have 5 turnovers against Ohio State. You're losing that game. You're getting pounded. So I just, and then Bryce having 2 picks. Look, here's the thing. My frustration lies with the coaching staff and their approach to Bryce Underwood. And what I haven't seen is progression week after week after week. It's felt very stacked. I can't really say he's regressed, but with Bryce Underwood, it's felt very stagnant. It hasn't really flowed, the right way. And again, look, I know he's 18 years old. I know he's still a freshman quarterback. So I'm not going to harp on the kid too much. I really shouldn't, because obviously he has the talent. Obviously he has the skills to compete in the in Division I football and to compete in the Big Ten, especially. But he's not a finished product though, and he's absolutely is still raw and still very talented, in every way possible. Now again, the problem lies with Sherrone Moore. And look, Sherrone's tenure, I mean, obviously has a lot of wins. But then you sort of look closer at those important wins, okay? So obviously, look, Sherrone's best win is over Ohio State. That is still an impressive victory. It was a game that nobody was expecting Michigan to win. And nor should they. I mean, obviously, because last year Michigan literally didn't have a quarterback, and I mean they had a semblance of a defense, but even then it still wasn't that great, at least as the year before. But they still won. And obviously he went over Ohio State, and it bought Sherrone some good time to prove himself still, right? Now look, here's the thing though. If you take away that Ohio State win, or those 2 outs, if you really want to count the game he was coaching for Harbaugh while Harbaugh was suspended, that Ohio State game as well. Sure, if you want to count that as well, fine. But if you take those 2 games away, and the Penn State game in 23 as well, both were top 25 matchups, by the way. But if you take those 3 games away, or I'm sorry, just those 2. I'm sorry. So if you take those 3 wins away from Ohio State and Penn State, Sherrone Moore is 0-4 against top 25 opponents. So, that would be the Texas game last year where they got blown out. Oklahoma this year didn't look very good. Was USC ranked when they faced them? Um, Maybe they were. I can't remember if they were ranked or not. But either way, that is a horrific record to have for a program like Michigan. Look, you at least want to be somewhere right at 500, little above 500 when facing top 25. Now, obviously, when you get to top 10 and whatnot, yeah, it might be right at or a little below 500, obviously, and that's fine, right? Because top 10 obviously gets a lot tougher and whatnot. But top 25, though, that's an abysmal record to have, especially if you're Michigan, right? And look, here's the thing: as Michigan, especially now, your standards every year shouldn't just be beat Ohio State, right? You've done that plenty of times. There's nothing else to prove. Your standard should be going to playoffs, making a deep playoff run, and ultimately winning a national championship. Those should be the standards of Michigan football. Anything less is a failure, okay? And I hated when fans, and this is why certain Michigan fans just really bug me, okay? Because then you have people who try to make excuses for Sharon, or people who try to make excuses for this program, you know, like Saturday. Oh well, it's a young team, and they're the youngest team in the Big Ten. Yeah, sure they have 5 turnovers, but they still won the game, and this and that, and well, they're still winning games, and yeah, that's fine. You can say, oh well, they're still winning games at the end of the day, but if you look at the entire picture, clearly they're not doing it in any good fashion, right? Or any fashion that Michigan win games, right? They're playing incredibly sloppy football. They're turning the ball over, especially on offense. The Bryce Underwood hasn't really progressed as a quarterback. The another offensive coordinator hire that might go nowhere. And look, I'm not saying fire Sharon now. Okay, obviously I would give him this season, and then I would probably give him I would probably give the entirety of next season as well. But something, and look, there's no doubt Sharon can recruit, right? Sharon can recruit anyone. He's a good recruiter. The problem is the offensive line is as good as last year. The problem is that, again, no real weapons. Okay, and I'm sorry, but having a freshman as your best weapon, okay, come on, let's settle down here, okay? And Andrew Marsh is a nice piece, but let's not make him out to be Calvin Johnson back in Georgia Tech, okay? Let's not make him out to that, okay? He's a nice receiver, he's a nice piece, okay? But again, let's not make this guy into Julio Jones. Let's not, okay? He's a good receiver, okay? But he ain't that special, okay? He's a good receiver. But yeah, I mean, look, it's again, I'm not saying fire Sharon now, but I would give him the entirety of next year, and depending on next season goes, yeah, absolutely. Then you should pull the plug. I mean, look, he still thinks that it should be, the team should still be running the football and this and that, and still think it's 2023 and blah blah blah. And look, ultimately, you have the players that you have. You have Rice, okay, who can be a really good quarterback if coached right, if the development is there. And quite frankly, it's not quite there yet, okay? He hasn't really looked like he's getting better each and every week. Maybe slightly, but not all that much, though. And that's in the OC. That's on Sharon, because he's an offensive guy. That's on the offensive line. That's on the weapons. that's out there that's on everybody. It's just it hasn't been a good product, you know. And now, do I think they're make the playoffs? Probably not. Because not only do you still have Ohio State, but you also still have Maryland as well, right? And there's a pretty decent chance that you might actually get, if you're not on your A game, and if you play just as sloppy as you did against Northwestern and Purdue, you're gonna lose that game. You're absolutely gonna lose that game if you're not on your A game for Maryland and Ohio State. Not that Maryland's any great, but you're not any great either. So that's, now even when you face the bad teams, you got to be on your A game. Okay? Because look what you did against Northwestern. Northwestern isn't in any great shape, but they played hard. And they certainly were more on their A game, and they probably should have won that game if they could actually move the ball, though. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we'll get into more Michigan football as the season wraps up, especially as we get to when they face Ohio State that week. That should be a really good game. I'm excited to see what that looks like because I've been hearing all season long about, we're going to be Ohio State again, and it's going to be awesome. Wee woo. Well, pump the brakes. We'll see. I will tell you this. Ohio State's defense is dominant. It's going to be really hard to move the ball at all playing against that Ohio State defense. And not to mention, their offense is just... man, that's a hard offense to stop. I mean, it's hard. Julian saying, this is his first year starting. He's having a Heisman candidate season. They have great receivers. They have a really good offensive line. They can move the ball at will. They're a really good offense, and they were a really good defense. And that game, I don't think Michigan fans really realized just how tough that game is going to be. Like, that game's going to be super challenging, especially if Michigan is not playing on their A game. And if they're not playing on the A game for Ohio State, there is no way they're winning that game. No way. So, yeah, for them to win, they absolutely have to be on their A game, and they have to play their best game. And if they don't, they're going to lose. So, anyways, that is his show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please follow the show, and please share with your friends and family. And yeah, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one.